I want to talk about something that Elon Musk said in 2016. It wasn't a tweet or an offhand comment, it was a statement made at a major technology conference. He said the odds that we're living in base reality, meaning actual physical reality and not a simulation, are 1 in a billion. 1 in a billion. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson, the director of the Hayden Planetarium and one of America's most recognized physicists, was asked what he thought the odds were. He said better than 50-50. And then he followed up that statement by saying he wishes he can summon a strong argument against it, but he can find none. And these aren't people who say things carelessly. These are credentialed scientists who look at a logical argument published by an Oxford philosopher and could not find a flaw in it. So let me show you their argument, because once you really understand it, you might find yourself exactly where they are, unable to dismiss it. In 2003, a philosopher named Nick Bostrom at Oxford University published a paper called "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" The paper makes a logical argument, not a scientific claim, a logical one. And it goes like this. One of 3 things must be true. The first possibility is almost all civilizations destroy themselves before they develop the technology to create realistic simulations of conscious beings. They go extinct and they never get there. The second possibility is that civilizations that do develop that technology choose not to use it, for moral reasons, or legal ones, or simply no interest. Basically, they can, but they don't want to. The third possibility is that we're almost certainly living in a simulation right now. That's it. One of those 3 is true. And here's why the third one is really hard to escape. Think about where we are right now with technology. In 1975, the most advanced video game was Pong. 2 rectangles and a dot. 40 years later, we have photorealistic open-world games with millions of players simultaneously that are becoming harder and harder to distinguish from reality at a glance. Now project that trajectory forward 1,000 years. 10,000, a million. At some point, if we don't destroy ourselves, we'll be able to simulate conscious beings so realistically that those beings would have no way to tell the difference between their simulated experience and what we call base reality. And if we can do it, we will do it. Probably several times. Research simulations, historical simulations, entertainment, we would run thousands of them. Which means the number of simulated conscious beings would vastly outnumber the original ones. And if simulated beings vastly outnumber real ones, what are the odds that you specifically are one of the real ones? And the math behind this is where it gets genuinely difficult to argue with. Here's the version of the argument that Musk uses, and I think it's one of the most intuitive ways to feel the weight of it. 40 years ago, we had Pong. Today, we have games so realistic that clips of them circulate on social media, and people can genuinely not tell whether they're looking at a video game or real footage. Now imagine the games that will exist in 100 years, in 500 years, and now in 1,000 years. At some point, the games will completely be indistinguishable from reality. The beings inside them, if they are sophisticated enough, will have no way to know they're in a game. They will think they're real. They'll have memories, relationships, fears, the full texture of what we call conscious experience. If that's where we're heading, and the trajectory of technology strongly suggests it is, then the question becomes how many of those simulations will exist? The answer is almost certainly a very large number. If it is possible and we're capable of it, we would run thousands. Future civilizations running ancestor simulations, research programs, entertainment products beyond anything we can currently imagine. So here's the logic of it. If there is one Earth and millions of simulated Earths, and you're a conscious being in that system, the overwhelming probability is that you're in one of the simulated ones, not the real one. Not because anything feels wrong, the beings in the simulation would feel exactly the way you feel right now. That's what makes it a good simulation. I know what you're thinking. This is a fun thought experiment, but where's the actual evidence that we might be in one? And that's the part that I even wasn't prepared for when I started researching this, because the evidence doesn't come from philosophy, it comes from physics. And it's genuinely strange. There's a physicist named James Gates at the University of Maryland. He was working on string theory, one of the leading candidates for a theory of everything in physics. And buried deep in the mathematics of string theory, he found something unexpected. Error-correcting codes. The same type of codes used in computer browsers. The codes that make sure the data transmits accurately across the internet without corruption. Those codes are called error-correcting codes, and they appear in the fundamental equations describing the nature of reality. Gates said publicly, and I kid you not, that in the equations that describe the smallest level of physical reality, there are what appear to be embedded computer codes. That's a physicist at a major American university saying the fabric of reality appears to contain computer code. Beyond Gates, there is other details from physics that are at a minimum consistent with the simulation hypothesis. The speed of light. Nothing in the universe can travel faster than roughly 186,000 miles per second. In a simulation, that could be a processing limit, or a maximum refresh rate. The universe can't update faster than that. The Planck length. There's a minimum size below which physics breaks down entirely. Below that, nothing meaningful can be measured, and that's suspiciously like a pixel. The smallest unit the simulation renders. Quantum mechanics. Particles don't have definite properties until they're observed. The act of measurement determines the outcome. That is, in a very specific technical sense, exactly how a simulation would work. Why render something in detail before anything is looking at it? Each one of those details has conventional physics explanations, and I want to be honest about that. But there is one ancient tradition that described all of this. The simulated nature of reality. Consciousness as the fundamental thing and physical matter as the secondary. The observer affecting what is observed. Thousands of years before any of this physics existed. And when I read in that context of what we just covered, it makes me stop and think. Maya is usually translated as illusion, but that translation misses something important. Maya doesn't mean the world is not there. It means the world as we perceive it is not the fundamental reality. That what we experience through our senses is a representation, a projection, of something deeper that we cannot directly access. The ancient Hindu texts, the Upanishads and the Vedas, describe consciousness as the fundamental reality and physical matter as secondary. The world we experience is described as being kind of a dream, being dreamed by a universal consciousness. Now that's not science, but it is a remarkable specific description of what the simulation hypothesis proposes. Physical reality as a rendered output. Consciousness as the underlying thing that makes the experience real. The ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi had a famous thought experiment. He dreamed he was a butterfly. And when he woke up, he couldn't determine whether he was a man who dreamed of being a butterfly or a butterfly currently dreaming of being a man. Descartes asked whether anything we experience could be trusted if a powerful enough deceiver was generating our experiences. The Matrix, which brought these ideas to mainstream popular culture in 1999, did not invent them. It dramatized the question that serious philosophers and ancient traditions have been sitting on for thousands of years. And now physicists are finding error-correcting codes in string theory. The same question, different language, across thousands of years. But the detail that I find most personally unsettling is not the physics or the philosophy. It's something a little bit more mundane than that. Something that millions of people report experiencing and that nobody has a satisfying explanation for. The moments when the simulation seems to slip a little bit. So if we were in a simulation, what would a glitch look like? Not a catastrophic failure, just a subtle little glitch, a moment where the rendering doesn't quite line up, where something happens that should not statistically be possible, where a memory doesn't match the record, where causality seems to briefly run backwards. The Mandela effect that we covered in the CERN video is the most widely reported potential glitch phenomenon. Millions of people sharing the same specific impossible memories. The Berenstain Bears spelled with an E, the Monopoly man that never had a monocle. Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. And deja vu, the overwhelming feeling that you've lived that exact moment before. Not similar, the exact moment. Now deja vu is not conventional memory because there is no prior event for that memory to come from. In a simulation, it could be a rendering artifact, or a frame being replayed. And what about precognitive experiences, like dreams that come true with specific detail? The feeling that something was about to happen a moment before it did. These are reported far more commonly than most people realize, and the controlled research on them is more interesting than mainstream science acknowledges. John Barrow, a cosmologist at Cambridge University, suggested that if we live in a simulation, we might expect to see occasional glitches. Small drifts in what we take to be the constants of nature. Anomalies in the cosmic microwave background. Moments where the rules bend in ways they should not. The hardest question isn't whether we're in a simulation, it's who would be running it. And when you look at the possible answers to that question, it connects everything this channel has been exploring over the past few months, in a way that I didn't expect when I started this video. If the simulation hypothesis is correct, who built it, and why are we in it? The conventional answer is future descendants of humanity running an ancestor simulation. Research, entertainment, curiosity about what their past looked like from the inside. But there are other answers that sit uncomfortably close to questions this channel has been asking for a long time. What if the beings running the simulation are what the ancient world called gods? Not metaphorical gods, actual entities with capabilities so far beyond ours that the distinction between God and programmer is functionally meaningless. Beings that design this reality, set the parameters, watch what happens inside it, and occasionally intervene in ways that look to us like miracles or anomalies or UAP. What if the Anunnaki, the beings described in the Sumerian text as being from the sky, creating humanity, watching over it, and eventually withdrawing? What if they weren't ancient astronauts in the physical sense? What if they were the architects of the code, running the simulation from outside of it? And what if UAP are not craft from another planet? What if there are processes running inside the simulation that occasionally become visible to the beings inside of it? Glitches in the rendering, or deliberate interventions by whoever's running it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that any of this is definitive. The honest answer is nobody knows who's running the simulation or whether we're in one at all. But what I am saying is that the question of whoever built this and why are we here is the same question that every ancient tradition, every religious system, and every serious philosopher has been asking since the beginning of recorded thought. The simulation hypothesis is the first time physics has offered a framework that makes the question answerable in principle. And that is worth stewing on for a little bit. Nick Bostrom's original paper is publicly available. It's called Are You Living in a Computer Simulation? And you can find it at simulationargument.com. It's surprisingly readable for a philosophy paper, and it's worth time if this piqued your interest. James Gates's work on error-correcting codes and string theory is discussed in multiple accessible interviews and articles if you want to go deeper on the physics side of this. And Neil deGrasse Tyson's statement, I wish I could find a strong argument against it, but I cannot, is available on video from the 2016 Isaac Asimov panel debate at the American Museum of Natural History. Now I want to leave you with one question, and I genuinely want you to answer this in the comments. Has there ever been a moment in your life where reality just felt wrong? Where something happened that made you stop and think that shouldn't have been possible? A memory that no one else shares? A coincidence so specific it felt designed? Or a moment of deja vu so strong that it took your breath away? As always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your time. Please leave that comment below and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Until next time, I'll talk to you later.